Let's break down the polar vortex and uncover what's really going on above our heads during those bone-chilling winter months. You've probably heard the term polar vortex tossed around in news reports, especially when temperatures suddenly plummet. It sounds dramatic, almost like a villain from a superhero movie, but in reality, it's a completely normal and essential part of our planet's atmosphere. Imagine a colossal, invisible whirlpool of icy air, spinning high above the North Pole. This mass of frigid air is held in place by a powerful band of winds that circle the Arctic, acting like a barrier or a fence. These winds, known as the polar jet stream, are what keep the coldest air trapped up north. Thanks to this fence, winters in places like the United States, Europe, and Asia are usually much milder than they could be. But sometimes things change. When a surge of warmer air from the south pushes into the Arctic, it can weaken the polar vortex. The once strong winds start to falter, and the barrier that kept the cold air contained begins to break down. As a result, the vortex can wobble, stretch out of shape, or even split into smaller pieces. This disruption allows pockets of that icy Arctic air to escape and travel much farther south than usual. When this happens, it's not the entire vortex moving, but rather a lobe or arm of its cold air plunging down into more populated regions. This is what meteorologists call a polar vortex event. The impact can be dramatic. Sudden, severe cold snaps that grip cities and towns, sending temperatures tumbling for days or even weeks. These events can disrupt daily life, strain energy systems, and challenge even the hardiest winter veterans. It's important to remember, though, that the polar vortex itself isn't a rare disaster. It's a regular part of Earth's weather machinery, always swirling above the Arctic, quietly influencing our seasons. When the vortex is stable and strong, we experience typical, manageable winters with predictable cold spells. But when it's disrupted, that's when we feel the full, biting force of Arctic air, sometimes leading to record-breaking cold and snow. So, the polar vortex isn't a storm or a one-time event. It's a powerful, ever-present force that shapes our winters year after year. Scientists and meteorologists study the polar vortex closely because understanding its behavior is key to predicting when and where extreme cold might strike next. As we'll see, the polar vortex's mood swings can make or break a winter, turning an ordinary season into one for the record books, or letting us off easy with milder weather. So next time you hear about the polar vortex, you'll know it's not just a headline. It's a crucial player in the drama of our planet's climate. The polar vortex and the jet stream are dance partners in our atmosphere, locked in a complex and ever-changing waltz high above our heads. Their relationship shapes the weather we experience on the ground, often in ways we don't even realize. The jet stream, a fast-moving river of air that circles the globe, acts as a boundary, separating frigid polar air from the milder air to the south. It's like an invisible fence, keeping the cold in its place and the warmth where it belongs. When the polar vortex is strong and stable, the jet stream flows in a relatively straight path. This keeps weather patterns predictable and orderly, with winters that are cold but manageable, and storms that move quickly through. But when the vortex weakens, the jet stream loses its discipline. It starts to wobble and meander, dipping far to the south in some places and arching northward in others. This waviness allows Arctic air to spill much farther south than usual. That's when cities like Chicago or New York can suddenly find themselves in the grip of a deep freeze, with temperatures plunging well below normal. Meanwhile, places like Alaska might experience an unexpected warm spell, with winter feeling more like spring. It's a dramatic seesaw effect. While cold air plunges southward, warm air surges north, creating a patchwork of extreme weather across the continent. The balance between these air masses is constantly shifting. This waviness in the jet stream is what leads to record-breaking cold snaps in some regions, while others experience unseasonable warmth. News headlines fill with stories of both bitter cold and surprising thaws, sometimes just a few hundred miles apart. The exact path of the jet stream determines which areas get hit hardest by these extremes. A small shift can mean the difference between a mild winter and a historic cold wave. When the polar vortex is stable, storms tend to move quickly, bringing brief bursts of snow or rain followed by milder weather. Winters are less severe, and the cold doesn't linger. But when the vortex wobbles, the weather can become stuck. Cold snaps can last for weeks, or warm spells can melt away snow in the middle of January, leaving people wondering what season it really is. The constant interplay between the polar vortex and the jet stream is what makes winter so unpredictable. One day it's icy and gray, the next it's sunny and mild, all thanks to their atmospheric dance. When this dance becomes especially chaotic, so does our weather, leading to blizzards, ice storms, and even sudden thaws that can cause flooding. That's why the polar vortex matters far beyond the Arctic. Its influence stretches across continents, shaping the winter weather that millions of people experience each year, often in surprising and dramatic ways. So, will winter 2026 bring a deep freeze? The answer hinges on the polar vortex's stability. If a sudden stratospheric warming event disrupts it, Arctic air could plunge south, sending temperatures to 20 degrees south, 4 degrees south, or lower. These events are hard to predict far in advance, but they happen every few years. Factors like El Niño, Arctic sea ice, and Siberian snow cover all play a role. The risk of extreme cold is always present. What changes is the probability. That's why we watch the vortex so closely as winter approaches. In the best-case scenario, the polar vortex stays strong and contained. The jet stream flows smoothly, keeping Arctic air bottled up. Most of the US and Europe get milder winters, with cold snaps rare and brief. The harshest cold stays in the far north. No 20-degree-C plunges for major cities. Heating bills drop, power grids hold steady, and winter feels manageable. Outdoor life continues with little disruption. It's a winter of moderation, not extremes. This is the outcome we hope for: stability, safety, and a break from wild weather. Now, the worst case. The polar vortex breaks down. A sudden stratospheric warming event splits the vortex, sending lobes of Arctic air south. The jet stream buckles, creating a superhighway for frigid air. Temperatures plunge to 20 degrees or lower, and the cold lingers for days or weeks. Wind chills become dangerous, infrastructure strains, and power grids are pushed to the brink. Schools and businesses close, flights are grounded, and daily life grinds to a halt. Vulnerable populations face life-threatening risks. It's not just cold, it's a crisis. The relentless freeze tests our resilience and resources. Multiple Arctic outbreaks could define the season. This is winter at its most unforgiving. Let's visualize the difference. In a mild winter, temperature maps glow orange and red. Above average warmth dominates. The 20-degree-C line stays far north, barely touching the US. The jet stream flows west to east, keeping Arctic air at bay. In the worst case, deep blue and purple sweep across the country. Temperatures 20, 30, even 40 degrees below normal. The 20-degree-C line plunges deep into the Midwest and Northeast. Major cities endure prolonged freezes, while the West or Alaska might see unusual warmth. These maps show how one atmospheric shift can rewrite the entire season. The polar vortex's behavior is the difference between a manageable winter and a historic deep freeze. It's a powerful reminder of what's at stake. History shows us what a polar vortex event can do. These aren't just ordinary cold snaps. They are extraordinary weather phenomena that have left a lasting mark on cities and communities across North America. The winter of 2013-2014 made polar vortex a household term. That year, Chicago experienced temperatures plunging to 27 degrees, with wind chills dropping to a bone-chilling 40 degrees or even lower. The Great Lakes, vast bodies of water, froze over almost completely, a rare and dramatic sight. People struggled to get to work, schools closed, and the city seemed to grind to a halt under the weight of the cold. In 1985, another displaced vortex sent temperatures in Chicago to a record 27 degrees. The cold was so severe that it shut down entire cities, emptied streets, and even forced the cancellation of a presidential parade. The city's infrastructure was pushed to its limits, and daily life was completely disrupted. The winter of 1976-77 stands out as one of the longest and most relentless cold spells in modern history. For months, communities endured freezing temperatures, leading to widespread energy shortages and forcing people to line up for basic supplies. Snow-blanketed towns, and the cold seemed never-ending. These events weren't just cold. They were long, grinding crises that tested the endurance of everyone affected. Families huddled indoors for days, sometimes weeks, as blizzards raged outside and snow piled up relentlessly. They strained infrastructure, closed schools, and tested communities' ability to pull together. Emergency crews worked around the clock to repair frozen water mains and restore power, while neighbors helped each other shovel snow and share resources. The lesson is clear. A polar vortex event can bring not just intense, but enduring cold. It can stretch on for weeks, affecting every aspect of daily life, from transportation to utilities. It's not just about surviving a few frigid days, it's about enduring an entire season of hardship. People find themselves digging out cars day after day, staying indoors, and waiting for the thaw that sometimes feels like it will never come. Past deep freezes serve as blueprints for what could happen again. By looking back at these historic events, we can better understand the risks and challenges that lie ahead. They remind us to take the threat seriously, to pay attention to warnings, and to plan ahead for the possibility of another severe winter, and to prepare for more than just a cold snap. It's about making sure we have the supplies, knowledge, and community support to weather whatever winter may bring, no matter how deep the freeze. What tips the balance toward a mild or brutal winter? Arctic amplification, rapid warming in the Arctic, weakens the temperature contrast that drives the jet stream. A weaker, wavier jet stream makes it easier for the polar vortex to wobble and spill cold air south. Paradoxically, climate change can mean more extreme winter cold in some regions. Other factors, like El Niño, La Niña, and declining sea ice, also influence the vortex's stability. Less sea ice means more heat escapes into the atmosphere, increasing the risk of disruption. Scientists weigh all these signals to predict what's coming. If the right mix of conditions lines up, the odds of a deep freeze rise. The atmosphere is a puzzle, and the polar vortex is the biggest piece. No matter the forecast, preparation is your best defense. Dress in layers, base, insulation, and a windproof shell. Cover all exposed skin in extreme cold. Winterize your home. Insulate, seal leaks, and protect pipes. Get your furnace checked before the season starts. Build emergency kits for home and car. Blankets, food, water, flashlights, and a radio. Keep your car's gas tank at least half full. If stranded, stay in your vehicle for shelter. Watch weather forecasts and heed warnings. Know the signs of frostbite and hypothermia. Check on neighbors, especially the vulnerable. Community support is key to resilience. Prepare now, and you'll be ready for whatever winter brings.